Okay, I think we're going to go with the final phase of the Keynote digital smile design. We had just shown how to get to this point, all your images placed into Keynote properly. We're going to now go in and help do a smile design. So we'll just take this image here and copy and paste it, and we're going to move it down here. Okay, so now here's all the things that you might want to use. When you're talking to your patient or you're doing your planning, you want to look at symmetry, proportions. It's okay to talk about those things with your patient because as you work with their teeth and redesign them, they will be more aware and look more closely at their face, their lips, their nose, their eyes as they relate to their teeth, especially if they're paying you money to correct their smile. So as you can see with this patient, even if we go back to this slide or this one, let's look at her proportions in her face. Now again, hopefully we've lined up the photo correctly, but her nose is not perfectly symmetric. Could be positioned a little bit to her right. Looks like she's had some cancer removed on her nose. You look at her lips do not flow evenly on the way they rise. The left side is a little bit more elevated than the right side. The teeth, you can see in relationship to the lip, again, you see more gingiva on the left side than you do on the right side. We'll get a closer view of this in just a minute. Her eyes, which I pointed out in the first videos, I think they're not perfectly symmetric, horizontal with one another or parallel to one another. So all those things are important. It looks like she has, if you come back here on this one, looks like she has decent facial proportions. You can talk to her about how her lip droops a little more on the right side, how her incisal edge position presents. Which are all important things to look at and analyze. When I'm also looking at this, I'll measure this lip, measure the amount of teeth at repose so that I get a good idea if they have a normal lip length, they have a short lip length, they have a long lip length, which may change how much tooth would be visible for someone at her age when at rest. Her lip is a pretty normal length. You'd expect to see 2 to 3 millimeters of tooth length when her lips are at rest. If her lip's longer, then you might expect to see less of those teeth. If her teeth are worn, you might expect to see less of those teeth at rest. If you see a lot of gingiva or if you see a lot of teeth at rest, it means that maybe those teeth are really long, or her lips really short, or she has vertical maxillary excess. So those are very important key concepts to consider as you analyze this lip length and teeth at rest. So then we come down here and look at her smile. Let's just go to this image. We have several things to consider here. I'm going to go ahead and remove these. Actually, let's come down to this one. I'm going to go ahead and remove these little references. Okay, so let's keep looking at this. Now, if we were to take her lips at rest and then measure how far it goes when she smiles, that lip movement should be within 6 to 8 millimeters. If it's more than that, then you would expect to see more teeth when her lip moves. If we see less than that, we'd expect to see less teeth. Those are important again as people want to say, hey, I want to show more teeth when I smile. I want to show less teeth when I smile. I want to show less gums when I smile. Lots of different techniques to start to accomplish those goals. But you want to determine if the teeth are in the right position, if they have super erupted, if there's vertical maxillary excess, if there's hypermobility of the lip. That will help you decide what you're going to do. And in this situation, her lip movement's fairly minimal, really. She's at like 5-6 millimeters. However, on her left side, it moves more. At this point, we want to start to analyze this occlusal plane. And you'll notice, too, that there's this kind of roller coaster appearance, kind of a cant as well. that she'll probably want to have corrected. This over here too is longer or further down than this side. If we were to just put those lines back on here, if we're going to jump back up here, you could see that. You could see the discrepancy there. You can even see in the mandible that there's a little discrepancy of the occlusal plane. Those are important to point out and talk about as you discuss with the patient what you need to do to correct her smile. Also color. You can point out color and discrepancies in harmony. This tooth rotated more than that tooth. There's fillings there. There's color discrepancies between those two teeth. This one's been treated with a root canal. This one hasn't. There's chipping, little character in the teeth, translucency. All those things are important to point out that she may want to address. You can look at how deep does her smile go. Look back here. You can see all the way back to her first molars. So when we're talking about how many teeth need to be done to correct their smile, we need to consider all the way back there in this patient's smile to get a really good aesthetic result, which means at times some people may need or want to do more teeth in their smile recreation than others. Sometimes you get away with the front 8. Very rarely do you get away with just the front 6 if someone's trying to actually cosmetically enhance their smile. If they want it to blend in and just with some improvements, then the front 6 might be okay. In her case, her color is also going to be a big issue. So what I like to do, just to try to help me start to wrap my mind around this even more, is let's copy this one. Let's just look at this and start identifying what's there. So one way to me to start, we need text, we need a shape. Let's just mark where the gingival margins are. So let's start here. And we're going to put that right at the highest point of her gingival margin. We're going to control, actually let's change the color of this. Let's make it, let's go to style. Let's make that color, put this back over here. Let's make that color, for whatever reason, blue. I like blue. Okay, so we're going to copy, Control V, Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V, and we're going to put it at the height of the canine now. Again, Command C, Command V, and we're going to put it at the height, sometimes just use your little arrow keys, of the lateral. And then again, Command C, Command V, and put it at the highest point of number 8. Again, Command C, Command V, move it over to the basic position and put it at the highest point of tooth 9. Command C, Command V. This is really great. It actually helps me, but also the patients, really start to visualize what's going on. I like to honestly tell people that aesthetics is based a lot on harmony, symmetry, and those are probably the most important. Anything that just doesn't catch their eye makes it easier to look at. So you start looking at that, you can immediately see why this just doesn't make you feel really good when you look at it. Not that it makes you feel bad, but it just doesn't feel pleasant. So you look at it and you can see that the gingival margins are all over the place. Next thing you might want to do, I'm going to take these lines off again. Next thing I like to do is play with the inclination of the teeth. You can even do the same thing here. Let's just do it for fun. Let's go ahead and Command C, Command V. Let's go ahead and do the mandibular gingiva, which oftentimes isn't as important to people because it doesn't show when they smile. But there are those people that lift up their lip or lower their lip and say, what is wrong with this gingiva? It also helps you determine if teeth are worn, if they've grown or compensatory erupted, if you need to address that. And so this helps in that regard. So you can even do the same thing on the mandibular teeth. At this point, I'm going to go copy this slide. And now we've retained those lines, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and we're going to make it longer. Long enough that we can put it on the tooth, probably center of that highest point, and now start to change the orientation of that. Oops, sorry. We're going to go to, let's see, we're on that. We're going to go to range. We're going to change the inclination or angle of that to match the inclination of the tooth. So in this case, her tooth looks to me like it's coming out in that direction. Does that make sense? Good. So now I like to copy that and paste because now it's the same length as the other one. And let's do the same thing here. Put it on the highest point of that tooth, or the gingiva, and let's change what we think the orientation is. To me, looks like it might be a little bit more that way. Okay, then at this point we're going to Command C, Command V. We're going to just move it over to the next one. Again, centering it on that little guy, or the height of that gingiva. And now we're going to change the orientation of it to, looks like that tooth is more aligned like that. There you go. Now we're going to Command C, Command V, and move this to this tooth. And again, that one looks like it is also more inclined. So maybe not that much. So let's move it over there. Okay, we just keep doing this until we feel that we have placed the proper inclination of each tooth, or the existing inclination of each tooth, more visibly. Come back over to this side now. There we go. I'll show you how neat this is in a minute as we get further along. That tooth looks pretty much the same. And this one needs to tip more in. There you go. See how that just helps you see that? It's also a great reference for your patients that you're going over this with, to start to see those things. Sometimes they just don't want to do anything with that, but it's super important, whatever we do as dentists, is to explain what's there. It becomes their decision that later on, if they don't like how that looks and you don't address it, or they choose not to address it, then that's when you can say, well, that's what we talked about at that point, and help them clearly see right from the get-go how things will turn out. Okay, so one more thing I'll do here is come back over to the slide panel, Command C, Command V. Now I have a duplicate of that, and we're going to outline the teeth. So I go into Shape, we're going to draw the teeth. At this point, I like to zoom in quite a bit because it gives me a little bit more precision in that. And we're just going to outline the existing teeth by connecting the dots. Again, I love Keynote for all these tools. They're really simple, easy to use. And you can outline the tooth as detailed as you would like. You can even incorporate the little chipping that you can see there. And you just go ahead and do this on each tooth. At that point, you can change the color to the same as the blue. Right now, I'm just going to keep it black for a minute. We're going to just keep adding those. Again, just clicking on the free gingival margin, or just the outline of the visible crown of the tooth. One thing I'll show you, I forgot to show you, is you click on this, which we did in the basics of Power or Keynote. You can always click on this and change it. You can even go back and change this part and bend the outline of the tooth a little bit. Okay, we're going to keep going. This is kind of tedious, but it's pretty helpful. Technically, if you have a staff that is really artistic and is good with the computer, they can help you even to this point. Just help outline and map all these teeth that will help you when you sit down to do the smile design. Again, we're just outlining all the teeth that we are going to discuss with them. Technically on her mouth, we should probably go all the way back to the first molars because it's visible, and we'll probably want to include that in our plan. This, when we get to a certain point and we get everything outlined, it's really kind of a cool reference for people to look at, and I'll show you in just a minute. Obviously, we got to finish this. So as quick as we can, still trying to do a good job. Let's outline all these teeth. You would do the same thing if you want with the lower teeth, and in her case, we're going to address the lower teeth, but just for time, you guys can see how this is working, and you can do the lower teeth on your own, which would help you in your treatment planning and visualization of that treatment plan. Ultimately, as we transition to the 3D world, we do a lot of this with 3D software. I still like to sometimes take this 2D way methodology and helps me visualize better three-dimensionally what we need to do in that software. But okay, what we're going to do is change the color of these. We're going to highlight each one and change it to the blue just so it matches that initial style. There we go. Okay, so that's a really kind of cool outline. They can visually see what is going on, and you can talk about all those things when it's outlined. You can even take this and go Command C, Command V, and delete the image, and now they have an outline of those exact teeth. Okay, that helps you a lot. You can start for you doing your treatment planning, you can start to consider things like, well, obviously a wax up, lengthening these teeth. Maybe you want to crown lengthen some of these teeth. Or you maybe want to do orthodontics and change the inclination orientation of these teeth. Those are the things you start to consider as you do your smile design. So we're going to go back to this initial image. Let's see right here. We're going to Command C, come down here and Command V, and now we have, let's talk about that midline real quick. If we wanted to correct that, you'd have to talk about doing orthodontics. There's no way prosthetically you're going to correct that accurately. So now let's go in here and zoom in again. We're what, like 150 or so. We might even want to do more. Let's go to 200. And we're gonna make the teeth look more ideal in our mind. And again, harmony and symmetry I think are most important. So you can actually take a tooth you think looks the best. So let's just take this one. This tooth looks pretty good. However, let's delete that just for a second. You'll notice something about it. If we're going to make it ideal, this lateral is a little bit longer than both of these. So we're going to actually see if we can lengthen just a little bit. Okay. You also want to look at tooth size and width, or length and height proportions. Normally, a central is about 80% as wide or 78% as wide, depending on what literature you look at. And so you can start to design that in your teeth design. Okay. There, that looks like a pretty good tooth. So what I do at this point is I will highlight that, Command C, Command V, and we're going to go over to Arrange. We're just going to flip it. And then we're going to move the teeth. to line them up. Now you can start to see how things should look. That gives you a pretty symmetric and harmonious set of teeth. We're going to also then do the lateral. Again, we're going to start at the gingival margin here. It's a pretty skinny tooth. Let's see if we can change the proportions a little bit to be a little bit more symmetric and harmonious with the front teeth. I'm going to keep it a little round. The length is pretty decent, kind of pointy there. Okay. There we go. Now we have a tooth. You can play however you want. Some people have templates they use. I like to just draw my own. It gives me just, I don't know, feels like more control over that. And there you go. Now you have, and these lines will help you line them up symmetrically. Okay, and you can start to see one of the issues that will be here is this tooth rotated more than this tooth. So getting these teeth that wide may not be possible. But let's just go ahead and draw it out like that. And you can start to see where the gingiva needs to be changed. Okay, let's go to the next tooth. Let's keep that gingival margin there. One thing I didn't do, which sometimes I will do, you don't have to, but it might help you. This tooth was too short, remember. Let me just finish this outline. Let me just show you something that you may want to do. You know how we did the gingival margins with the existing teeth? Sometimes you might want to do that where you'd like them to be in your new teeth. Okay, that might be too pointed for this patient, so let's soften it a little bit. Okay, let's copy and paste. We're going to flip it. We're going to move it over here. Now that discrepancy here may be one of two things. Again, it may be the orientation of the patient, but it also just may be a tooth size discrepancy there where those teeth are positioned. Could be also the way they're tipped in. So that's something we may have to deal with as we start to do the actual diagnostic wax up. So again, let's come up here. This tooth looks a little short. And let's just reshape it. Okay, very good. Good. Let's go and flip that and move it to the other side and see how that looks. Again, I just don't know if that's going to be possible. Sometimes you may have to start changing the size and shape. But at least it gives a good start. This tooth here as well, if you wanted to redo that, you may want to lengthen it. And change its incisal length to give it more of a positive smile curve as it goes back into the mouth. Again, copy, paste, move it over here. You want to flip it, and there you go. Let's see, is it lined up right? There we go. Now we're lined up. So now you have a more ideal smile design. Now I like to use white for these just because people like white teeth. I highlight them, and we're going to change it to white. So let's do that. There you go. Now in this presentation, I'm going to show you a little trick that's really neat. So I'll have to change it probably to a different color. But for now, we're going to keep it white. Let me show you a couple more things. Now, we talked about the gingival margins. You could do this before you outline the teeth, which may help you control where you want the teeth positioned. You want to position these. Let's just change that to white. Oh, hang on, let's go to white. So you position these where you want the gingival margins to be. Just like we just we did first with the existing teeth, it'll help you make sure you're getting them lined up properly. They're going to be lined up properly because we basically made the teeth symmetric with the other teeth. Okay. And just flipped them and they're lined up appropriately. But you can start to see how you start to gain harmony and where you need to go with those teeth. Okay? The other thing you might want to do, just like you did with the existing teeth, is now change your orientation, which will help your ceramist, or if you're the ceramist, will help you maintain a focus on the proper orientation or inclination of those teeth. Usually the central is not quite as angled, so we just did that. We're just going to flip it, so now we have the same angle and symmetry of that tooth with both centrals. Copy paste that, flip that, and again now you can correct the symmetry or inclination there. We're going to paste that and put this there, and you'll notice again we're right about there, and this is more ideal inclination of teeth. Okay, so there you go. Oh, you know, on the pre-op we did this tooth too. Usually these have just a little bit more inclination. But this is a great way to illustrate to your lab team what you had in mind. So let's go ahead and zoom out now to 100%. There you go. See that just feels better, right? It looks more symmetric, looks more even. This is a really cool thing. Now what I'm going to do is highlight all of these, hold down Command and unhighlight the picture. And hang on, let's just do this. First, let's go Command Copy, Command V, and then we're going to do that. Highlight everything, unhighlight that. We're holding down Command. We're going to go to Style, go to Color. And in this case, we use blue already, so let's just use just different color. We'll go green. Did we get it? Let's do green. Okay, the reason I did that is, let me show you. I'm going to now delete this picture, and you can see that. What we'll do now is take Command Copy, Command V of this slide, and we'll come over here, highlight this. And we're going to copy it, right click copy or Command C, come down to this slide, we're going to paste it, and at this point while it's still highlighted I'm going to turn it into a dotted line. Now you can even show them overlapping what changes need to be made to create that harmony and symmetry. At that point, technically your smile design is done. You can that's the information you would need to use to make your treatment plan and really explain things in great detail to the patient. If you just wanted to see how it looks when you scroll through it, it's really kind of a cool presentation. Again, you can turn some of these images off. You don't need all of them. But you can just see how you slide between slides. The face kind of morphs slowly, easily. It just feels good. You talk about the gingival margins there, the inclinations there, you know, the outline and shape of the tooth. Then you jump in, and again, you could rearrange these, but say we would like it to look more like that. That's how the gingival margins should look, to give you just a little more symmetry and aesthetics. How the inclination of the teeth just should be to be more harmonious and proportionate. Then you can compare them side by side. It's just a really neat way to teach people about their smile and what needs to be done. I'm not sure you really need anything more than that. Oh, I do remember one more thing. A couple more things. One is you're going to want to save this likely as a PowerPoint. or a PDF, just because I'm going to save it first as a Keynote. Some people don't have Mac offices, they have PCs, or they want to share this with their patient. A lot more people tend to have PowerPoint, so you can save it as a PowerPoint, or you can save it as a PDF. PDF is probably the safest. You save, it's the best quality. You go to next. Again, you find that folder. We're already in the folder of that patient sample case. We're just going to save it as the same, and we're going to export. Now it's just created a PDF that we can open anywhere or send to the patient, and they can open anywhere, on their phone, on any computer, their iPad, their tablet. There was one more thing that came to mind. Oh, sometimes, let's just go to this one. Let's copy this image or this slide. See, we're on the slide panel. Copy and paste. You can do something kind of fun. You can highlight those teeth, hold down Command, unhighlight that back image, and then we're going to go to Style. Okay, Format Style, Fill. We're actually going to fill it with a gradient fill. That looks kind of weird, right? So let's click on this one here, and we're going to click on the color wheel and go to white. Very good. And then we're going to click on this color wheel, click on white again, but we're going to change the opacity. And it kind of gives them a cool appearance or cool effect of those teeth. Just something kind of neat to do if you wanted to do that. Gives a little more depth to it. They can kind of visualize it a little bit better because they're not seeing just the teeth underneath of it, and helps them better understand the aesthetics. So hopefully you guys liked this discussion presentation. I use this stuff all the time. It takes a lot of time to ultimately get the photos, edit them, put them in the presentation, and then go through the smile design and then create your plan. So the more you can train your staff in doing these steps, the more time you have to spend working on patients and this exact treatment planning. Ultimately, the treatment plan needs to be done by us as doctors. There are labs out there that will go through all the steps of getting most of this together for you. There are softwares out there that will do it for you as well or help you. This is a pretty simple, economic way to do it if you want. So I hope you enjoyed that, and see you next time when we do the 3D smile design.